Hi, Facebook friends. Good afternoon, I guess it is at this point. This is Dagmar reporting live, the spiritual healer from Soul Matters, talking about all the matters of the soul. And I want to talk to you a little bit about past lifetimes today. In other words, hi Zanda, Trujillo, nice to see you. Are you rising from the ashes of your past lifetimes, or are you recreating them in present time? That's the big question, right? And how the heck do you know whether that's what you're doing or not? Well, I'm going to give you a few pointers out of my own personal experience here today. And, the truth of the matter, if you're just living your life, you probably don't know if you're recreating your past lifetimes in present time. However, I'm going to give you some ideas, and so perhaps you can, it might help stir some thoughts for you in terms of whether you are or not. So, for example, like I myself at probably in my mid-40s, I, suddenly recognized that I was actually reliving a past lifetime in present time for the 3/4 of my life. Including actually having had a son, or raising a son by myself without his dad. And it's interesting when you do these things is, basically what you're trying to do on a soul level is recreate some kind of unresolved pain that you experienced in your past. And it can be the same circumstances or similar circumstances. They can be different circumstances. But emotionally, it feels the same. And so, that's what we do on a soul level. We try to recreate things because on a soul level, what we're trying to do is connect with the past, the unresolved past, and actually heal it so that the soul or our soul may learn from it. Because it's much like our digestive system. Our soul actually can't learn from an experience it hasn't fully digested. And by digesting it, I'm talking about healing it. So anyway, I had, in my early 20s, I think it was, I remember my son was around 5 years old, and I had this notion all of a sudden, this thought came into my mind that I was supposed to raise a boy by myself in this life. And I didn't know, I didn't understand it at the time when I had that thought. I just remember having that thought all of a sudden. It was just this knowing that I was supposed to do that. And I didn't know why, why was I supposed to do that? And it was actually because it was part of my recreating that past lifetime, that I had a lot of pain around. And where I had a boy also who was born out of wedlock, out of an illegitimate relationship, if you will, out of an affair that I had. And, by the way, this story is actually in my book that I had written about my twin flame called Meeting My Twin Flame. So you can actually read much more detail about it. But, it was so interesting that I had this notion or this feeling like I was supposed to do that. And, so I guess our soul kind of determines or figures that we're supposed to do these things again if we haven't resolved them. Now, here's the beauty about it. If you actually heal that past, lifetime, or you in that lifetime, in that moment of your trauma, then you are actually changing the course of your present moment, because now when you heal that, there's no need for you to relive it anymore. Okay, so you can actually change the course of what happens next. And it's very fascinating. I've experienced that with myself quite a few times, and I've helped other people change their course of things. And just to give you some examples, I had a gal one time that, was going through a divorce with her ex, or with her husband at the time, who apparently was abusive to her son. And she was very afraid of losing her son to him. And everything had the indication that the husband was going to receive the son and not her, and she was going to lose him, etc. So I said, look, whatever you're doing there, you're recreating something from your past. Let's do a few healings and see if we can shift the energy around this. And so we did. And so interestingly enough, we did like four healing sessions with her. And, all past life stuff around having lost children. And once we had healed her in those past lifetimes, there was no need to keep recreating that anymore in her life. So in her present time. And so what happened is that she actually, her whole divorce proceedings just made this 180-degree turn. And it turned out that she didn't even have to take her husband to court, because he just decided all of a sudden to give her everything she wanted. And bingo, it all dissolved. The entire friction was gone. She didn't have to recreate losing children anymore. And that's what her fear was, because that's what happened in her past lifetimes. And so, the question is, what kind of drama are you experiencing in your present life that is a recreation of your past life, perhaps? And if you could do a healing on the past life, then could you shift everything? Could you change what happens next? Could you change your circumstances in your present life? I do what I call quantum healings through the subconscious mind, which are very powerful. And that includes past life regressions. Whether you believe in past lives or not, or have not considered them, they're very real and they have a very powerful effect in your present moment. There's a lot of things, correlations between your past lives and how you're living and what you're experiencing in today. And just like, I recreated an entire life raising a son by myself that was a repetition of a past lifetime, It's amazing to the great length we go to actually recreate our past experiences as a soul. And, I'll give you another example. My twin flame, actually, he had at one point recreated in his childhood, around 10, 12 years old, a drowning with his friend, or where his friend drowned. And it was a total recreation of a past lifetime that him and I had together, where I drowned in his presence. And he had carried still lots of guilt around it. He blamed himself, even though it wasn't his fault. And he had a lot of sadness and grief around it. And, so it went to the great lengths of him actually having drawn that experience in, of actually re-experiencing a drowning of a friend. And it's interesting because in this past lifetime, we also had been around the age of 10 to 12, something like that, where I had drowned in his presence. And so this stuff is very real, and what we live is very real. And, I guess I'm trying to put that out there, that you can actually shift things. You can actually change your present time experiences by healing some of this unresolved stuff. So you don't have to keep repeating it. You don't have to keep reliving that drama, that pain of it. You know what I mean? And it's very, very real. I'll give you another example of a recent client who actually, through an email where she had emailed her ex-husband, who at the time still lived with her, that she will be cleaning out the garage or something like that. And somehow it triggered with him something around her throwing him out, even though that's not what her intention was, but it triggered that with him. And it triggered a lot of, on the other side, for her, it triggered a lot of grief and sadness and, not wanting to throw him out. And it was interesting because we actually did a healing around it, and she went into a past lifetime where her and him were in a marriage in a past lifetime, and except that she was a him and he was a she. And, she had thrown him out as he was her wife at that time. And, but at the same time, she experienced it as a great loss of her love as a result, and she still carried that grief around it. And he obviously carried around a lot of grief around having been thrown out by his spouse. And, so it was a whole past life experience. And that small little email triggered all of that and all of the emotions. And, and they had a huge fight around it. And it was just, such an emotional thing, this little email that triggered this past lifetime experience that was ready to be healed. Another example, I had this young boy who was 10 years old come to me one time at a fair for a reading, and he actually wanted a healing, and he was afraid to die. And he said to me, "Hey, I'm afraid to die. I fear dying." And, at first it kind of took me off guard and took me aback, why was he afraid? But it was all stemming from a past lifetime that he had where he died at that precise age on a, hit by a car on a little bicycle. And I was able to help him heal that. And, but the interesting part is he was reliving that as a result of, the present day age that he turned, which was 10 or something like that. And so his age was the trigger for having relived this past lifetime and the fear around dying, and because he had died at that time. And so, this stuff is very real, but it can be, again, it can be shifted, it can be changed. We can heal our past. And like I say, the quantum healings I do through the subconscious are extremely powerful. And it can literally, change. Hi, Shalom. It's good to see you, girlfriend. How are you? So it can change a lot of things in your present time when you, heal some of these past lifetimes, because we do tend to recreate our unresolved stuff in present time, whether we know it, whether we're conscious of it or not. It doesn't matter. That's just what we do on a soul level. And so if you're experiencing any kind of a drama that is persistent, or even health issues, relationship issues, sometimes issues with our kids that we can't quite get over, it can be a recreation of your past lifetime. It can also be a recreation of things you experienced earlier in the childhood. And so when we can go back and heal ourselves in those moments, we can actually change our reality at present time. And that's what I'm here to tell you today. So how much are you rising out of the ashes of your past lifetimes, or do you keep recreating them on a daily basis? Because there is so much better things to do, and when we can move on from the past and actually focus on bigger and better things, I guess, in our lives, and more joyous things than trying to recreate our pain all the time. So anyway, but I just want to also let you know that it is the time of our ascension that's been going on for quite some time, that probably started back in 2003, from what I understand, where we're shifting into the higher vibrations, and healing our past is all part of it, because how else does a hot air balloon rise besides, throwing out those sacks of sand? And those sacks of sand, if you can imagine that they represent your past pain that you keep carrying around with you. And as you throw those out of the balloon, you will rise. And as you keep carrying them, they're going to keep weighing you down. And so what are you doing today to rise your vibration, to rise out of the ashes of your past lifetimes or your past in general? And, because yes, you can experience real change. Okay. I've seen it with many people that I've helped. I've seen it with myself. So anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up about, past lifetimes. They're very, very real. And, some quantum healing can totally change what you experience is at the present moment, especially if you're in a sort of confrontational situation, like say even a lawsuit, or some negative energy with someone, or even your own children, when you're stuck in a certain pattern with them, or your spouse, or sometimes these patterns come from very deep past of ours, and they can be shifted, they can be changed, but you have to heal the origination of them. So anyway, if you want to give me a holler, connect with me on Facebook, or just call me up and tell me, hey, I want to do some healings, let's change some things. I'd be happy to do that. I'm at 303-638-2696, or you can just connect with me on Facebook. But you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye now.